right, our good friend Aditi Kinkhabwala is with us. I think.
Wait, so is there a subliminal message in that being the read before you came to me? Because Adam, the last time we talked, it was me getting a lot off of my chest, right?
Well, let's be fair, Aditi. I mean, most of the time when you're on with us, you're getting things off your chest that you're pissed about. And as someone who gets pissed off about a lot of things, I can appreciate that. We're like your therapy session. Instead of paying $200 to a therapist, you come talk with us and you get your complaints out. It's good. Smart move.
Somewhat, but I need to censor myself. At least when we talk on the phone, I don't censor myself.
No, that's true. That's true.
Now I don't know if you should go to Bull for censorship. Bull's
not censored. Wrong.
He's not a censor guy.
No, I'm saying when she calls me on the phone, we talk. There is no censorship on the phone.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, it all comes out there.
Them conversations could be crazy.
Oh yeah.
For sure. We should charge money for those conversations. But just as a side note, my entire athletic career, starting from the age of 3 when I played soccer, I have never worn the jersey number 0, ever. Nor have I ever wanted to wear the jersey number 0.
I never heard. Earl claims young people today like the number 0.
My coach.
I guess I'm not young, so there's that.
Our military coaches said that they don't give out 0 and 1 because 0 is not ambitious and 1 is selfish.
0 and 1 were the goalkeeper numbers in soccer, and I was mad that I had 1 over 0.
Well, they just let 0 in the NFL, and a bunch of players took it, and the NBA, and you could do double 0, which is different than regular 0.
I got to decide for my fall baseball league that I'm coaching. We're gonna have manager jerseys, so I got to pick a number.
69.
Oh God!
He went there. Now, Didi, I want to ask the first question because, and that's not like you, McNuggets. That's just not.
But we got Bullet jersey last year.
That's because to be fair,
yes,
I bought a Browns T-shirt jersey.
A jersey.
It was a jersey.
It says the Bull and it's number 69 because I thought it'd be funny.
Yeah, so I was just saying,
obviously,
play the hits.
That's right. It made sense, but I didn't expect you to say it. Go ahead. Let's get the real question.
This is your opportunity to, get your victory lap off because, Kevin Stefanski today, Andrew Berry today got the extension. You've been steadfast for how many years that you've been on this show that it was coming. It was there. It was going to be a situation. We just had to wait for it. It was never in doubt. So, your thoughts on Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry getting their deal and, what that means for the Browns moving forward.
I hope they both got everything that they asked for, frankly. It's just like you said, G, and I appreciate that. There's no question the stability, the consistency in messaging, the success, the results that they have brought. And the last time I was on the show, we were talking about how nimble they've both had to be, and they most definitely were last season in light of all the injuries. And the way they led that team, built that team, and coached that team to still make a playoff berth. So I think that the Haslams finally have gotten it right. They see that they have it right. And so why wouldn't they extend this pair? And I think the biggest thing is how well the two of them work together. They really are. They are in lockstep, but they also argue well. And I think that sort of pairing is what bodes so well. You don't hear about the internal turf wars that you hear with some other teams. So now you hope they get good health. Sorry, Mikey, go ahead.
No, the Browns brought in Jim Schwartz last year, and he obviously meshed well with Kevin Stefanski, fit right into the coaching and front office equation with the Browns, and his impact was felt immediately. And then this offseason, they bring in Mike Vrabel as a consultant. And I'm curious from your perspective, looking at the Browns from a bird's eye view looking in, where do you think the most tangible impact Vrabel will have on this team in 2024 will be? Because I know he's dealing in all facets with Stefanski, with Schwartz, helping scout. He's working everywhere. But where do you think the most tangible impact that Vrabel will have will be?
You know what? And I don't want to hedge here or sound like I'm giving you a cop out, but you can't put your finger on any one place here, right? Obviously, Vrabel and Schwartz have a relationship. And I should just really quickly remind you when we were talking about Stefanski and Berry having this great relationship, it was actually Berry who knew Schwartz, who suggested that Stefanski talk to Schwartz and that Schwartz would make a good addition to this team. So even though Berry's not beating his chest over that, this is how those two work so well together. So Vrabel and Schwartz obviously have a relationship as well. There can be a cohesiveness in the way that they talk. There's a respect there. But think about how many times we heard Kevin Stefanski talk last year about how on one side of his office he had a former head coach and Coach Hennon, on the other side of his office he had another former head coach and Jim Schwartz. Kevin Stefanski has enough confidence in who he is that he likes hearing other ideas. He wants to know how other people have gone through things, been through things, faced certain things. So Mike Vrabel is there to be a brain, to be someone that Kevin Stefanski can talk to about, hey, did you ever deal with this? Or how would you handle this? Or what are your thoughts on this? It's another set of eyes. And even if he's not necessarily running what Jim Schwartz runs, doesn't mean that he can't offer input on that offense. And I'll tell you, on that defense, excuse me, I'm thinking of offense because I'm thinking of a game that I had. Mike Vrabel is just a guy that's got a great read on a locker room and then has his finger on the pulse of a team. I don't think I've told you this story, but I had the Titans last year after they had played that remarkable Monday night game in Miami. If you remember, Will Levis led those two late touchdown drives in, I believe, the final 2 minutes. It was sort of this signature win, huge thing. They come home, and they're now facing the Houston Texans, who have to start Case Keenum because CJ Stroud isn't ready to go. So everything about this game read letdown game. And I remember during the week asking Vrabel, how do you make sure that your team isn't kind of nursing a hangover, for lack of a better phrase, when you come into this game? You've got this huge win, and now you're playing at home against a backup quarterback, and maybe you're just not as amped up, or maybe you're tired, or emotionally whatever. And Vrabel said there's no way to know until you actually get out on the field, but you obviously have to be aware of it. And very early in that game, the Titans were indeed a little bit flat. They came out flat. Early in that game, they had a fourth down conversion deep in their own territory. I believe it was the 23. And Vrabel, I was standing right next to Vrabel, he decides to go for it. And he decides to go for it because he knows he needs to juice up his team. And so I guess the estimation here is that if we get it, we're going to get an energy boost, and we need some sort of external boost, and this is what will do it for us. And if we don't get it, well, it's early enough in the game, whatever. They did get it. They ultimately lost in overtime, but still, they played a very good game. And Vrabel just knows how to read a locker room. He knows how to read a sideline. He knows how to read what's going on and all going on with his players and even with his staff. And I think those are all things that are just going to be of value. And why not? Like, the more smart minds you can add to your staff, the better you'll be. And we know there's been a big drain on that staff this past offseason.
Aditi, when you look at, obviously we've got 3 months till the season starts, but as of now, depending on what sports book you look, there's different odds. But overall, the Browns are plus money to make the playoffs, which for those who are not gambling people, and I don't know how much you gamble, if at all, that means Vegas thinks it's more likely than not that they will not make the playoffs. Now, they're not huge plus money, so to put it in terms, Vegas is saying the Browns have a 45% chance to make the playoffs, roughly, okay? Now, I think some people thought that was crazy, but I don't think it's crazy. In fact, the only thing that would shock me in the entire AFC, is if the Chiefs didn't make the playoffs. Nothing else would shock me. The AFC North is way too good. I legitimately think any of the 4 teams in the AFC North could finish in any of the 4 spots in the division. I don't think the Bills are guaranteed anything. I look at the Chiefs, no way they don't make the playoffs. I can't see it in any way, shape, or fashion. But any other team, it's a crapshoot. There's so many good teams in the AFC, and especially in the North. What say you?
I don't disagree with you. I agree with you completely on the AFC North. I think it's way too hard to handicap or rank or give you odds right now at this point when we're so far out from the season. And I'll be really honest, I have some questions, maybe concerns isn't the right word, so I'll say question, Deshaun Watson's new offense.
No
And
doubt.
how well does he pick it up? How comfortable is he running it? How at ease is he? How does the whole operation work? Right? His whole time here in Cleveland, he's had one voice in his ear and one quarterback's coach and one sort of line of communication. Well, that's gone, and the quarterback room is somewhat different now, and that his sort of the guy that he can lean on is somebody new, and Jameis Winston. So I think that there are some very fair questions there about how that all meshes.
Aditi, you talk about the offense. That's a really big part of it. It seems like Jameis Winston kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit, and saying that he's very he likes what Dorsey is doing and some of the things that he's calling as a play caller. Could it be a good thing that you do have a different voice for Deshaun Watson? Not for the fact that he didn't like Kevin Stefanski, for the fact that I like a little bit of uncomfort for a guy who has to prove himself a little bit, right? Like, I like the fact that, he may not have certain little things to lean on and kind of to force him to feel the heat a little bit. And I don't know if Dorsey's going to be able to do that, throughout the season. But I kind of like the fact that, he feels the pressure a little bit, Deshaun Watson, in his third year.
I think discomfort is good, especially if it motivates you and maybe to work in a way that you haven't had to work before. We all know Deshaun Watson is wildly talented, but picking up a new offense is just going to require more work. And you would say that of anybody. You'd say that of a guy that shows up at 5 a.m. and leaves at 10 p.m. You'd say a guy who works 9 to 5. I'm not making any sort of general statement on Deshaun Watson's work ethic. I'm simply saying that this is an opportunity where he is likely.
Put her back on screen, Steve.
Yeah, this is our little fan over here. And I'm so sorry. She's clearly crashing the shot. Kaya, this is quite rude. This is extremely rude. What's the proper way to handle something like this at this point?
Have you seen that video that's been circulating of the kid in Congress as the guy's making the speech and the kid's behind him?
Yes, and he's making the face.
Yeah, I think we need to get her to make faces then.
Well, clearly she's not shy about that sort of thing.
No, not. Hi.
Kaya, we're talking about the Browns. What do you think?
That's your favorite team, right?
The Brownsies? Yeah. Is that what you think? All right. Can you let
me on the merry-go-round?
Okay.
We love the merry-go-round.
Yes, you do love roller coasters, don't you?
Yes.
So, what are your thoughts? Do you think the Browns are going to have a good year? Where are you? Are the Browns having a good year?
Yes.
Yes.
There we go.
She's
That's
biased.
all we need.
That's expert analysis.
Well, she's born in Cleveland, so you have to take everything she says with a grain of salt,
She's
got some bias. Can you take
Yeah.
that? Yeah, exactly.
Aditi,
Anyway, carry on, please.
Yes.
putting you on the spot a little bit here. I should have texted you and prepped you on this question. But in your opinion, who's the best player in the Browns that we don't talk nearly enough about?
Oh, that's a good one.
I know. I should
that's
have
a good one. That's a
I
good
should
one.
have texted you. My bad. Bad job out of me.
Well, I mean, we can run through that. I guess, it's hard for me, though, because I don't know who locally gets enough attention, right? Because I don't necessarily, I think our crew and who we talk about, or I think about game broadcasts and who we hear about, I think nationally, I will always say, even though he is an all-pro and is generally recognized as one of the best players in the league, I still don't think that we talk about Nick Chubb enough. And a lot of that just has to do with who Nick Chubb is and how sort of receding he is in his personality. But this, to me, is one of the top 5 players in the entire league. Do we talk about him enough? I don't know. I guess you're thinking about an under-the-radar kind of guy, right? talk about Denzel Ward. We talk about Greg Newsome. We certainly talked about MJ Emerson. We talk about that front, that line. We didn't talk enough about Elijah Moore to make Adam happy because we should have been talking about him more, right? That's a consequence of what he produced. Well, I'm not saying he's a great player. I'm just talking about who we didn't talk about.
The question is who's not talked about enough?
Yeah, which player in the Browns do you think?
Like, who's an unsung hero, or who's a guy
I think it's a guy you mentioned.
Talk about more.
No,
because he'd do more.
I have said this consistently, and it's amazing that this takes place in Cleveland because, as I've said many times, and you don't know this, Aditi, as you just said, you're not here all the time. You don't work regularly in Cleveland. You're here sometimes. So in this town, the fans generally, the media somewhat, is hard on the Guardians and hard on the Cavs. But for the most part, from a lot of fans, the Browns get a complete pass no matter what they do. I don't know if it's because the team was stolen and there's that underlying fear that if we're too harsh, the team will leave again. I don't know if it's just because football is the most popular sport, so you love it more, so you give it more of a pass. But the Browns get way more of a pass in this town generally, and not for everybody, than the other teams in this town. And the players specifically, people don't like when you criticize players. It doesn't matter how disappointing they are, which is why it's shot. And the better players are either fairly rated or overrated, too overhyped, which is a long-winded way of saying that it stuns me that arguably the Browns' second best player on their roster gets undervalued, underhyped, and frankly disrespected in this town on a regular basis, and that is Denzel Ward. Denzel Ward does not get the credit he's due. Outside of the 2022 season, he has consistently been a top 10 corner in the league outside of 1 year, every year. He doesn't disappear at the end of years, which Myles Garrett has done. Now, he's had injuries, and that's been a negative, but he's never missed a full season or anything. He's consistently played at that high level as much as any Browns player in the last 20 years, or most Browns players in the last 20 years, and people treat him like he's just a guy. I got Earl, who is out of his mind, who thinks Martin Emerson is better. Martin Emerson can't carry Denzel Ward's jock. It's not close.
So here's what I think is interesting. I would say outside of Cleveland, I certainly don't feel that way. Every conversation that I've ever had with my crew or in meetings or just sitting around talking football, people acknowledge and recognize Denzel Ward for the player he is. I mean, I get to still live off the stories of being at his pro day and seeing what he did there. But this is, again, what I'm saying about Nick Chubb. Denzel Ward is not a Jalen Ramsey. This is not a guy that talks. This is not a guy that's constantly drawing on the field. This is not a guy that's drawing attention to himself. And so there is a piece where I get what you're saying, that maybe he doesn't get his fair due because he's not also adding all that drama to what he does. And he's not demanding the spotlight in that way. But I will add this little coda here. In the city of Pittsburgh, it's the same. The fans go way easier on the Steelers organization and are way more protective of Steelers players than I would say they are of the Pens and the Pirates.
But here's the difference, though. I'm not sure. I don't know hockey well enough to do it. But the Steelers have been a much better organization than the Pirates.
Penguins have been really good. I mean, they've won
That's fair.
Stanley Cups.
So
that's fair.
Whereas the Guardians, especially, and even the Cavs, to some degree, have been way better organizations than the Browns. For the most part.
Well, maybe to your point, the expectations are just higher.
Yeah.
Maybe the expectations, in the city of Pittsburgh, there's sort of a lot of frustration about the Pirates, but it's like, if they're not going to spend money. Yeah. What can we expect?
They should be. By the way, they got two of the best young pitchers in baseball.
The Pirates.
Yeah.
To
when are you
both points.
coming to a game? I thought you were going to come to a game soon, Adam.
Yeah, I don't know. We got some things going on. We might not be able to get out there this year, but we will be eventually.
To both points about Denzel Ward, by the way, Dee, we're going to dive into this tomorrow on the show with Tyvis, but PFF just put out their cornerback rankings. Denzel was 17th.
Wow.
Ooh. That's absurd. I'd need to really see who is ahead of him and his availability.
34th.
All right, that's fine. That's fair.
And Newsome was 24th.
Newsome was 24th?
Dang. Your boy.
Even I'm with Earl. I'll take Emerson over Newsom.
You want the top 5 real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
We'll do this tomorrow on the show
Yes.
with Tyvis. Who knows?
Good.
Sauce Gardner was 1.
Yes.
Trent McDuffie, Kansas City 2. Charvarius Ward, San Francisco 3. Pat Surtain 4. Jalen Johnson 5. Jalen Ramsey 6. Jair Alexander
All right,
7.
you're going too far.
Kendall Fuller 8.
You got-
Michael Carter 9. And Teron Johnson of Buffalo 10.
Mike's gone out of control. He's
I
gone
said
rogue.
5.
You're going rogue.
I think
Well-
Denzel gets knocked a little bit because he's perceived as being injury prone.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
it.
in the write-up.
That's
And
it.
John Costco did it, by the way.
Yeah.
And John Costco, you know,
Yeah.
Cleveland guy. Or
That's
not
why I
Cleveland guy,
asked
but-
is availability wonders that they're looking at.
Yeah, he mentioned that the injury history is part of the reason he got dinged here.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about it tomorrow.
Yeah,
but-
yeah. Aditi, great. Go ahead.
No, it's awesome. I was going to say Trent McDuffie is a young player that I like a lot, and I had a great time with last year during the playoffs. I just feel that he did a lot out of the slot. He was a great blitzer. But of course, there's different with L'Jarius Sneed gone now. There'll be different things required of McDuffie. So let's see what happens.
Aditi, I was gonna ask you just from a female reporter perspective of
We have
the
time, 'cause we
of the
only-
Caitlyn Clark situation.
We only
Do
have one
time?
super. Real quick, we only have one super chat, right, Ant?
Yeah.
Yes,
Do
we
do
have
you
time.
have an opinion on it? I mean, if you followed it, I don't know how much you're paying attention to the WNBA.
I have, and I'll say this. I work with some phenomenal who have helped build the WNBA, and Lisa Leslie and Swin Cash and Renee Montgomery. And I'm actually dying to know how they feel about some of this more than a lot of other people who right now are trying to give us an opinion that don't really have an appreciation of the league and what it is and how it's growing. And I don't know. I there's a piece of me that wishes, can we just talk about Caitlyn Clark as an athlete? And does everything have to be in the prism of race and sexuality? And I don't know. I don't know enough.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I do appreciate that there is so much attention on the WNBA,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with a catalyst, perhaps bringing fans in to realize how high level the game truly is.
Right. And I think I
appreciate that.
I think having conversations about race and sexuality are healthy if they're done by intelligent people who are willing to be open-minded, which we all are.
Sure.
And I think those are healthy things to have. Personally, I think this has a lot more to do about race than I think it has very little to do with sexuality in this particular case, but obviously I don't know for sure. But anyway, it's another topic for another day. But thank you, Aditi, as always. We will talk to you again soon.